How did Asia's MMA premier go from global contender to a company on the brink of death? From high-spectacle productions rivaling the UFC to one of the worst promotional crises in modern-day history.
It's one dude, Chatri. He's the man.
Visionary.
You are one of the most influential figures in MMA.
What is the biggest risk you've ever taken? I would say in most ways,
It's one championship.
It's like Asia's version of the UFC. It's gigantic, if not bigger.
The biggest mistake that everybody makes when they try to compete with us is they try to compete with us.
The UFC started in 1993, 27 years ago. We started 9 years ago.
It is literally larger than the UFC worldwide.
I'm seeing one championship over F1, over NFL, over NBA, legit behemoths.
These guys come out and they just start throwing money around and start trying to be the UFC. The first thing you have to do when you start a business is know exactly who you are.
We're 180 degrees opposite in everything we do.
One Championship isn't just a struggling ship, it's a sinking one. Today, we'll be doing a deep dive into the fall of One Championship, taking a look at the financial hemorrhaging, the talent exodus, and the rumors shaking the very foundation of this once promising empire. So make sure to stick around. For those of you who don't know much, here's a quick overview. One Championship wasn't just a fight promotion, it was a revolution. Think crazy Muay Thai knockouts, gritty submission wars, production so massive it threatened the UFC. But behind the glitz and glamour, a landslide of crisis loomed. In this video, we'll be breaking down the biggest wrench in One Championship's works, its financial freefall, the core reason, and its timeline. The root of One Championship's troubles lies in its, you guessed it, chronic overspending. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. It boils down to bad business practices such as an over-reliance on non-cash revenue, an inability to generate sustainable income from ticket sales, sponsors, or broadcasting deals, and asset liquidation. Think of a business blunder, and they've probably already done it. Picture this. You stockpile years of deficit spending, weathering through dozens of global headwinds that kick your butt, and fester consistently high fixed costs like an open wound that have left the company in a position that is entirely handicapped and fully dependent on investor bailouts to avoid insolvency. It doesn't take a genius to guess that that's a recipe for disaster. Okay, let's rewind a bit. The year is 2011. One Championship is launched as the Asian premier of mixed martial arts in the already booming MMA world, bringing together the Far East, South Asia, and the Middle East, giving the global MMA behemoth, the UFC, a run for its money. One was marketed as a beacon of hope for Asian MMA that was set to shake the global fight business. And to its credit, it started off strong, valuing rapid market penetration and brand visibility over profitability, a decision Chatri made willingly and now acknowledges, when confronted with the reality of One's crisis across multiple fronts. In a lengthy Facebook post addressing fans and reporters, he began, "While my team and I are certainly frustrated, we understand it comes with the territory when building a young, high-profile global brand," Chatri wrote. "Sadly, there are some who simply want to see One fail." He hinted discreetly at the quants, saying, "Revenues have grown every year since inception and continue on a good trajectory," he wrote. "As a result, our monthly losses have now seen several meaningful step function reductions. The path to profitability is now very clear." Between 2011 and 2017, One Championship aggressively expanded its footprint across Asia, building a robust event roster, developing a diverse fighter base, and growing its digital presence, but consistently operated at a significant loss. Starting from its inaugural event in September 2011 at the Singapore Indoor Stadium, which sold out and set a strong early tone, the promotion steadily pushed into new markets including Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, the Philippines, Vietnam, South Korea, and several major cities in China. By 2017, One was scheduling around 14 events a year, taking over iconic arenas like the Cotai Arena in Macau and the Impact Arena in Bangkok, while entering emerging markets such as Vietnam, South Korea, and Japan. The promotion's approach was not just about quantity but also storytelling, showcasing homegrown martial arts heroes and blending multiple disciplines, including MMA, Muay Thai, kickboxing, and submission grappling, all flavored by cultural narratives that resonated locally across Asia. By the end of 2017, they had accumulated losses that put them in a brutal chokehold, pun intended. losses reached nearly 67 million US dollars, with annual losses growing from approximately $15 million in 2016 to $35 million in 2017. This meant that despite a bright and shiny 125% increase in revenue from 2017 to 2018, reaching 27 million US dollars, losses more than doubled to 59 million US dollars. This financial strain was driven by rising expenses. These included marketing, employee wages, and event production costs, which increased both in number and average cost per event. From 12 events averaging 193,000 US dollars each in 2015 to 15 events averaging 424,000 US dollars in 2017. For perspective, that's more than double the average production cost per event within just 24 months. Ticket sales remained low, and much of the revenue growth was fueled by sponsorships and broadcast deals whose actual cash value was questionable. Fast forward to 2018. One's management was soaring high on its unorthodox financial model, declaring global milestones, like breaking viewership records with a whopping 85 million viewers for One Century in 2019, and securing significant sponsorships and new partnerships. But internally, its cracks started to deepen. Even though their revenue was growing, thanks largely to those sponsorships and broadcast deals, the company was spending way more than it was making. For instance, in 2019, One spent roughly $54 million just on marketing and production alone, which was more than their total revenue for that year. This means accumulated losses came up to 126 million US dollars by year end. And you'd think they'd still have sponsorship and broadcasting deals, at the very least. Ticket sales is contingency, right? Ticket sales, which you'd expect to grow alongside the hype, actually dropped a little, showing that getting fans to watch wasn't always translating into selling seats. Meanwhile, costs kept climbing because they invested heavily in flashy productions, paying their fighters big contracts, and expanding aggressively into new markets. So while One Championship was celebrated as a powerhouse in Asia and touted by chairman Chattari Sityottong as having a 90% market share in the East, the financial reality was more complicated. So while the organization had impressive audience numbers and media presence, it consistently operated at a substantial loss, with losses growing 60% from 2018 to 2019. In comes 2020, the year of the COVID pandemic, the one where the cracks started to show behind the glitz. When COVID hit the world in 2020 like a refrigerator on roller skates, One was forced to put the brakes on its glamorous live events, like many other sporting organizations. What did this do? Take away Chattari's golden cash cow. This caused ticket sales and other event-driven revenues to drop. Their austerity measures had them shift to digital content, ramping up online engagement. This helped maintain fan interest, yes, but operational expenses remained high. And without the steady income from live shows, financial pressures mounted. By 2021, despite boasting one of the highest digital engagement rates in global sports, the promotion's losses accounted for a staggering $111 million, more than double the previous year. The ridiculous marketing budget alone was $56 million. Coupled with the administrative costs at $50 million, One was stating to run dry of its resources. And while revenue did grow somewhat, by the grace of sponsorships and broadcast deals, much of it was just wishy-washy, non-cash agreements, meaning they had nothing to show for actual cash flow or numbers, revealing deeper financial troubles. In 2022, these issues became as clear as day. One's losses, though only marginally reduced to about $61.7 million, continued to raise serious doubts about the sustainability of their business model. While they secured major funding rounds, including a $150 million injection from investors like Guggenheim and Qatar Investment Authority, and inked a significant streaming deal with Amazon Prime, the company was still hemorrhaging money, struggling to turn its growing audience into steady profits. In essence, between 2020 and 2022, pandemic disruptions, costly operational decisions, and reliance on shaky revenue streams pushed One Championship deeper into financial crisis, even as it fought to maintain relevance and growth in a rapidly shifting global sports market. And now, in the last 3 years to now, One's shell cracked publicly, and it's not looking too good. It began from the record $90 million loss, a hit too big to be able to PR your way out of. This was a gigantic leap from the $61.7 million lost the year before. But that's not all. It gets worse. The company has now sunk well over $530 million in accumulated deficits, while its net assets have boiled down to a mere $24.6 million by the end of 2023. But you'd be most surprised by what the collapse of traditional revenue streams has to say. One reported just a shocking $144,000 in ticket sales across the entire year. This is a number so small, it's even overshadowed by local MMA promotions in far smaller markets. And yet Chatri boasts a 90% monopoly. So much for words, huh? And although the company's revenue rose 25% to $68 million, most analysts call them out on this growth, largely being cosmetic, relying heavily on manipulative internal valuation and positive promotional media exposure rather than actual cash flow. To stay afloat, One resorted to selling off investment assets and basically begged for new funding. Their lifeline came in late 2024, a $50 million emergency investment from the Qatar Investment Authority, helping to stave off collapse. But investor confidence was going down the drain, which, by the way, also came at a large cost, something we'll discuss in the next part of this video, so make sure to tune in. And so one hand, the company grappled with liquidation and loss of major broadcasting partners like Amazon Prime Video, which announced it would conclude its contract in 2025. On the other hand, the failure of US expansion plans marked by canceled shows and retreat from key markets bombed One's revenue streams and global visibility. By 2024 and into 2025, the once expansive vision of One Championship had shrunk sharply, with mass layoffs of 30 to 40 employees, high-profile executive departures, and growing uncertainty clouding the promotion's future. What was once Asia's shining MMA beacon now fights to avoid slipping into irrelevance. But the financial storm isn't over, and as One scrambles to navigate these turbulent waters, insiders and fans alike ask, is there truly a path back? Or has One Championship's fight simply reached its final round? Make sure to let us know your think in the comments below. And while you're at it, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button to stay up to date with our videos at Fight Lab. That's all for today, folks. See you in the next one.